It's day 2. I've been in this box now for almost 48 hours. It's really hard to breathe. It's hard to see. I probably should have brought more things into this box with me. I regret doing this. I shouldn't have done this. This is gonna get me in so much trouble if I get caught. I'm having a hard time breathing. You know, After Prison Show would never do a challenge. I mean, we just won't. And the only reason I'm in this box right now is because of what today's video is about. It is really hard to breathe in here though. And I just think that's because I'm getting very, very claustrophobic in here. But today's video is about a man by the name of Richard Lee McNair. And this is a man who is serving 2 life sentences right now and has also been locked up since 1987. And during all of the time that he's been locked up, he's escaped 3 different times. So there's a really good reason why I'm sitting in this box right now. And that is because during his very last prison escape, he actually did so just like this, mailing himself from the prison in a box in real life. So long before Rice Gum or SS Sniper Wolf or FaZe Rug or FouseyTube started doing stupid challenge videos on YouTube saying that they're mailing themselves in a box, there was a prisoner back in 2006 who actually did this for real. And the crazy damn thing about it is, it actually worked. It actually worked. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and I really hope you enjoyed that skit. In this video, I want to tell you about a prisoner with probably the most interesting story I've ever heard before in my life. And a lot of you may already be familiar with this prisoner, and you don't even know it. Richard Lee McNair, a man who was born on December 19th of 1958, and who also has been locked up since 1987 for murder, attempted murder, burglary, and other charges. He's also a man who has escaped 3 different times. And each of the 3 escapes this man pulled off, all of those were done in some pretty interesting ways. The first time Richard Lee McNair would escape actually paints a better picture of just why this guy's locked up in the first place. Because it was in November of 1987 when McNair was attempting a burglary, and he was then surprised by 2 men, one of which who would end up dead and the other one shot 4 times. It would only be a short time later when McNair was arrested for these crimes because of that one guy who did survive, who was able to point the finger saying that he did this. And when Robert McNair was arrested and then taken to the police station, it would be there while handcuffed that he would escape for the very first time. The story goes on to say that McNair was handcuffed and left in a room with 3 detectives. And while in that room, he was able to reach into his pockets and pull out some lip balm or chapstick. And with that lip balm, he was then able to grease up his wrists with it and then slide his hands out of those handcuffs. Now, I wanted to put these handcuffs on just to give you an idea of what this would be like. These handcuffs are on pretty tight. I can't slide my hands out of these. And I just imagine what it would be like to have that lip balm or grease right there around my wrist and still trying to slide my hands out of these handcuffs. That's not going to be a very pleasant experience at all. In fact, even greased up, it's probably still going to hurt pretty bad. After McNair got the handcuffs off, he then led police on a foot chase through town and then up 3 flights of stairs where he would end up on a roof boxed in with police right behind him. And from that 3-story roof, McNair would actually jump to a tree branch, grab hold of that tree branch, but then that tree branch would break, he would fall to the ground and injure his back pretty bad, where he would end up getting caught only mere minutes after that very first escape attempt. Now, this first escape attempt happened in November of 1987. And only 3 months later, in February of 1988, while jail deputies would be moving McNair, they would discover inside of his cell that he had been in there carving out the cinder blocks in his cell. A second escape attempt unfoiled right there, only 3 months after his first one. From February of 1988, all would remain quiet with McNair until October of 1992. When, while in prison, McNair and 2 other prisoners would escape through a prison ventilation system. One of the prisoners who escaped would be caught mere hours after the escape, another a few days later. But McNair, during this second escape attempt, would remain on the run for 10 months. And it was during these 10 months that McNair grew his hair out, dyed it blonde, and would roam the United States in stolen cars. Crazy to think that this fugitive at large was able to remain free for almost a year. And after being captured the second time, the North Dakota Department of Corrections deemed Robert McNair a problem inmate. And because of that, they then requested that he be transferred to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Crazy to imagine a state prisoner being so bad that the state system doesn't even want to deal with this guy anymore or feels that they can't. And because of that, they request that the federal system take him off of their hands, because maybe the federal prison system is better equipped to handle problem inmates like Robert McNair. But 13 years later, it would be discovered that the federal prison system was no better equipped to handle McNair than the state system. And on April 6th of 2006, Robert McNair would pull off what I consider to be the most ingenious prison escape I've ever heard of. It was during April of 2006 when Robert McNair was in a federal prison in Pollock, Louisiana. And while at this prison, he worked in a manufacturing area of the prison that repaired old torn mail bags. And it was while he worked this prison job that he plotted his third escape. McNair would end up hiding in a box that would then be filled with these repaired mail bags and then shrink wrapped. But while inside of this box and with him, he had a specially crafted breathing tube to help ensure that he wouldn't suffocate while inside of this box. Once inside of this box and all of these mail bags then covering him, and again this box then being shrink wrapped, it was picked up by a forklift and then transferred outside of the prison gates to an unsecure area of the prison. And it was once this box was delivered to this unsecure area that Robert McNair then cut his way outside of this box and was able to just walk away to freedom. The report says that the box containing McNair was transferred outside of the prison gates at 9:45 in the morning. And by 11 a.m. that same morning, McNair would be free. And it wouldn't be until 4 o'clock that afternoon before prison officials would realize that McNair was actually gone. Now, just like I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, Robert McNair might actually be the first person ever before Foozy Tube and SS Sniper Wolf and FaZe Rug and Rice Gum ever even thought about putting themselves inside of a box for some sort of a stupid challenge on YouTube. It was in 2006 that a prisoner actually did this in real life to escape from prison, and it actually worked. And also something else that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, saying how there's a good chance that you may have already heard of Robert McNair and not even known it. But there's actually a huge video on YouTube called Prisoner Convinces Cop That He's Just a Jogger. And wouldn't you know, the prisoner in this video is Robert Lee McNair, only hours after he had mailed himself out of prison in a box, and this actually working. And if that is not crazy enough to think that a prisoner could mail themselves in a box out of prison and this actually working, but then only hours after doing so, Robert McNair was approached by a cop who told him that he matched the description of a prisoner who had just escaped from a prison only a few miles away from where this cop was talking to Robert McNair at. And this is what Robert McNair said when this cop told him the reason that he was stopping him.
What is, we got an escapee.
Oh, shit. Where from?
Prison.
There's a prison here?
Yeah.
Huh.
There's a prison here? Not only would Robert McNair pull off the first ever I mailed myself in a box challenge, he also would be able to convince a cop who pulled him over saying that you matched the description of a guy who just escaped from this prison. That just wasn't him at all. And what's even crazier is during the time that he's talking to this cop, he gives this cop 2 different names, and this cop just never even picks up on that.
You live around here, buddy? No. Where you live at?
Down the road by Pineville.
Pineville?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you have any form of identification on you?
No, man.
What's your name?
Robert Jones.
Robert Jones?
Uh-huh.
Where are you from?
We're originally Dallas, Texas.
I mean, that's where y'all
that's
stay
where we're out of.
Out of Dallas, Texas? What's your name again?
Jimmy Jones.
I guess the cop just wasn't paying attention at all, that at first he said his name is Robert Jones, and then 5 minutes later he tells the cop that his name is Jimmy Jones. And it would be during this stop that he convinces this cop that he's just a jogger. He's just running along train tracks. He's doing some kind of roof and construction work, and he's staying at a hotel, and he couldn't even tell you nothing about where the hotel's even at. But that damn cop would end up letting him go. It would be during this third escape that Richard, I think I've been saying Robert quite a bit. His name is Richard. My bad. Richard Lee McNair. But during this third escape that happened in April of 2006, Richard Lee McNair would remain on the run until October of 2007. I mean, this guy stayed out for a year and a half during his third escape before he was recaptured in Canada in October of 2007. And it's now currently to this very date that Richard Lee McNair, with 2 life sentences, is housed at a supermax federal prison in Colorado known as ADX Florence, Colorado, considered Alcatraz of the Rockies, and also considered one of the most secure prisons in the world. Not really sure McNair is going to be able to do any escaping from that place, considering he's on lockdown for 23 hours a day at this supermax Alcatraz of the Rockies prison. But again, this guy has one hell of a story. In fact, there's so much more that goes into his third escape. Times where police approached him and let him go, not knowing that right there in their grasp, they had an escaped fugitive on their hands. For more on Richard Lee McNair, I highly suggest that you guys Google this man, because his story to me is one of the most interesting that I've ever heard before. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about it. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world, never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!
It's day 2. I've been in this box now for almost 48 hours. It's really hard to breathe. It's hard to see. I probably should have brought more things into this box with me. I regret doing this. I shouldn't have done it. This is gonna get me in so much trouble if I get caught. I'm having a hard time.